Princess Velara Kethshin stood at the great window of her observation chamber. Below her, ships from 100 different worlds filled the docking bays. The gathering of species happened once every 100 years. It was the most important event in the known galaxy. Leaders, warriors, and champions came from every corner of space to show their power. But Velara was bored. She had lived for 3,000 years. She had seen 17 of these gatherings. They were always the same speeches, the same displays of strength, the same empty promises of peace between species that hated each other. Her family, the rulers of the dominion of 1,000 suns, controlled more than half the galaxy. They had done so for 10,000 years. Their power was absolute, their technology was unmatched, and their favorite tradition was the collection of champions. Every species that served the Dominion sent their greatest warriors to fight in the royal games. It was considered an honor. The winners received glory. The losers received death. Velara had watched thousands of these battles. She had seen creatures of every shape and size tear each other apart for her entertainment. It had stopped being entertaining a long time ago. Her assistant, a thin creature with 4 arms and silver skin, entered the chamber. He bowed low before speaking. "Your Highness, there has been an incident at the outer boundary." Velara did not turn from the window. What kind of incident? A ship entered the neutral zone without permission. It was not from any registered species. Our patrols captured it. This was slightly interesting. What kind of ship? A small freighter, Your Highness, old and damaged. It appears to be human. Velara turned now. Humans. She knew of them, a young species from a small planet called Earth. They had only been traveling through space for a few 100 years. They kept to themselves mostly, staying in their own small section of the galaxy. The Dominion considered them too weak to bother with. A human ship wandered into our space. Velara smiled for the first time in days. How amusing. Bring the pilot to me. The assistant hesitated. Your Highness, the proper procedure would be to execute the pilot for trespassing and destroy the ship. The gathering requires. I know what the gathering requires. I have attended more of them than you have been alive. Bring me the pilot. I wish to see what a human looks like up close. The assistant bowed and left quickly. An hour later, Velara sat on her throne in the small audience chamber. Guards lined the walls. A few members of her court had gathered to watch, curious about this strange interruption. The doors opened, and the guards brought in the human. Velara studied him carefully. He was shorter than she expected. His hair was gray and his face was lined with age. His clothes were simple and worn. He walked slowly, not because the guards forced him to, but because he seemed in no hurry. There was no fear in his eyes. That was unusual. Most creatures trembled before her. You are the human pilot? Velara asked. I am. His voice was calm and steady. What is your name? Marcus Cole. Marcus Cole, you have entered Dominion space without permission. This is a crime punishable by death. Do you understand? I understand. Do you have anything to say in your defense? The human Marcus looked around the chamber slowly. He looked at the guards, at the watching nobles, at the golden walls and crystal ceiling. Then he looked back at her. My navigation system failed. I drifted off course while I was sleeping. I meant no disrespect to your territory. Meant or not, you are here, and the law is clear. Velara leaned back in her throne. She could execute him now. It would be quick and easy, but she was still bored, and something about this human interested her. I have a proposal for you, Marcus Cole. The human waited. Tomorrow, the games begin. Warriors from across the galaxy will compete in trials designed to test the limits of mind and body. These trials are meant for the greatest champions of the greatest species. Most participants train their entire lives for the honor of competing. She smiled. I will allow you to participate. If you survive all 5 trials, I will grant you your freedom. I will give you a new ship, better than your old one. I will give you safe passage to anywhere in the galaxy. You will leave here a free man with gifts that would make you wealthy beyond imagination." The court murmured. This was highly irregular. "And if I fail?" Marcus asked. "Then you die, but you would die anyway. At least this way you have a chance." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. He looked at her with eyes that seemed very old, older than his face suggested, older than they should be. "What do you gain from this, princess?" No one spoke to her so directly. The court went silent with shock. Valera found herself surprised as well. "I gain entertainment," she said honestly. "I have seen champions from every species compete. I have never seen a human in the games. I am curious how long you will last." "You expect me to fail?" "I expect you to die in the first trial, but surprises are so rare in my life. Perhaps you will provide one." Marcus nodded slowly. He seemed to be thinking about something far away. "I accept." Valera leaned forward. "You accept, just like that. You do not wish to know what the trials are. You do not wish to negotiate for better terms." "Would better terms be offered?" "No." "Then there is nothing to negotiate." Marcus smiled for the first time. It was a strange smile, quiet and knowing, like he understood something she did not. "I have been running from things for a long time, princess. Maybe it is time to stop running." Valera felt something she had not felt in centuries. She was not sure what to call it. Interest, perhaps, or the first small hint of uncertainty. "Take him to the competitor's quarters," she ordered. "See that he is fed and rested. The games begin at dawn." As the guards led Marcus Cole away, Valera watched him go. He walked the same way he had entered, slowly, calmly, like a man who had already accepted whatever would happen. She told herself he would die quickly. Humans were weak, everyone knew this. But as she sat alone in her throne room, she could not stop thinking about his smile. What did he know that she did not? The arena for the trial of minds was a vast circular room made of black stone. Floating screens surrounded it so the audience could watch every move. Thousands of spectators filled the seats above. They had come from across the galaxy to see the games. Princess Valera sat in the royal box, the best view in the arena. She had invited several important guests to sit with her. They wanted to see the human fail. Marcus Cole walked onto the arena floor. He wore the same simple clothes from the day before. He looked small and ordinary compared to the other competitors who had fought that morning. His opponent was already waiting. The Vethrix were known throughout the galaxy as the greatest minds in existence. They had evolved beyond physical bodies long ago. Now they existed as floating spheres of pure energy, their thoughts faster than any computer. The one facing Marcus was called Scholar Prime. It had won the trial of minds for the last 300 years. No one had even come close to defeating it. The trial was simple in concept. Both competitors would play a series of strategy games. Each game was more complex than the last. The first to win 5 games would be declared the winner. Scholar Prime floated to its position. A calm voice announced the beginning of the trial. The first game appeared as a hologram between them. It was a 3-dimensional puzzle involving moving pieces across multiple planes. Marcus studied it for a moment, then made his first move. He lost in 12 moves. The audience laughed. Valera heard her guests making jokes about the foolish human. She smiled politely, but she watched Marcus carefully. He did not seem upset by the loss. He was studying the board. The second game began. This one was more complex, involving resource management and territory control. Marcus lost again, this time in 20 moves. More laughter. One of Valera's guests leaned over. "Your Highness, this is almost cruel. The creature does not even understand the rules." Valera did not respond. She was watching Marcus's face. There was no frustration there, no shame, just intense concentration. The third game was a logic puzzle with thousands of possible solutions and only one correct answer. Marcus lost again, but it took Scholar Prime 47 moves to beat him. The audience noticed the change. The laughter faded to murmurs. The fourth game was a war simulation. Ships moved across a star map, and players had to outthink each other 3 moves ahead. Marcus lost, but he held on for 96 moves. By the end, Scholar Prime was moving slower, thinking longer. The score was 4-0. One more loss and Marcus would fail the trial. According to the rules, failure meant death. Velara leaned forward in her seat. The arena had gone quiet. The fifth game appeared. It was the most complex yet. A civilization builder spanning thousands of years, requiring players to manage resources, populations, technology, and wars all at once. Scholar Prime made its opening move with confidence. Marcus did not move immediately. He sat very still looking at the board. A full minute passed, then another. Perhaps his mind has broken, one of Velara's guests whispered. Then Marcus moved. What followed was unlike anything the arena had seen. Marcus did not play like the competitors who had come before. He did not try to build the perfect civilization. Instead, he created chaos. He made moves that seemed random. He sacrificed advantages for no clear reason. His civilization stumbled and nearly collapsed 3 times. But each moment of chaos created a reaction from Scholar Prime, and each reaction moved the Vethrix exactly where Marcus wanted it. It took Velara a long time to understand what she was seeing. Marcus was not playing the game. He was playing his opponent. He had spent 4 games learning how Scholar Prime thought. Now he was using that knowledge. 100 moves in, Scholar Prime made a mistake. A small one, but Marcus saw it. He built on it, he pressed. 200 moves. Scholar Prime was struggling now. The confident energy sphere flickered with what might have been frustration. 300 moves. The audience watched in complete silence. At move 347, Scholar Prime's civilization collapsed. Marcus had won. For a moment, no one moved. Then a single sound of clapping came from somewhere in the audience. Another joined it, then another. Soon the entire arena was making noise. Not cheering exactly. The spectators were too shocked for that, but they recognized what they had just seen. Marcus stood slowly. He nodded to Scholar Prime with respect. Then he walked off the arena floor, still looking like an ordinary old man. Velara realized her hands were gripping the arms of her throne. She forced herself to relax. "Impressive," one of her guests said carefully, "but the second trial will be different." The trial of beasts took place 3 hours later in a different arena. This one had sand on the floor and high walls. It was designed to contain dangerous creatures. Marcus stood alone in the center. He had been given no weapons. That was the rule of this trial. Competitors faced the beasts with nothing but their own bodies. The gates opened, and the creature entered. It was called a Ravax. Standing 4 meters tall, it had 6 legs, armored skin, and a mouth full of teeth designed to tear through metal. The Dominion bred them specifically for these games. They were perfect killing machines. The Ravax saw Marcus and charged. Everything happened in less than 3 seconds. Marcus did not run. He did not freeze. He moved to the side at the last possible moment. As the beast passed, his hand touched its neck in a specific spot. The Ravax stumbled. Its legs stopped working. It crashed into the sand and did not get up. It was still alive, but it could not move. Marcus stepped back. He was breathing a little harder, but otherwise he looked the same as before. The arena was completely silent. Velara stared at the scene below. She had seen thousands of warriors face the Ravax. Most died. The ones who survived did so through strength or speed or special abilities. They fought bloody battles that lasted many minutes. No one had ever ended it in 3 seconds. No one had ever known exactly where to touch the creature to disable it. How did he know? Someone behind Velara whispered. The Ravax's weak point is a secret. Only the breeders know. Velara did not answer. She was watching Marcus walk toward the exit. He moved differently now. The slow, casual walk was gone. For just a moment she saw something else in the way he carried himself. Economy of motion. No wasted movement. Every step placed exactly where it needed to be. She had seen warriors move like that before. The very best ones. The ones who had fought so many battles that combat became as natural as breathing. Then he passed through the gate, and the moment was gone. He was just an old man again. Velara sat very still for a long time. Who was Marcus Cole? What had she brought into her arena? The royal archives were in the deepest part of the palace. Velara had not visited them in over 500 years. She had no reason to. The archives contained information about every species the Dominion had encountered. Most of that information was useless to her. But tonight she could not sleep. She moved through the quiet halls alone. The guards knew better than to follow unless she commanded it. The princess wanted privacy. The archive doors opened with a soft hum. Lights activated as she entered, showing rows of data crystals stretching into the darkness. Millions of records, the collected knowledge of 10,000 years of empire. Velara walked to the human section. It was small, a single shelf holding perhaps 20 crystals. Humans were considered unimportant. The Dominion had barely bothered to study them. She took the crystals to a viewing station and began to read. Most of the information was basic. Earth was a small planet in a minor solar system. Humans had developed space travel only 400 years ago. They had spread to a few dozen colony worlds but kept to themselves. They had no special abilities, no advanced technology, no natural weapons. By every measure, they should have been conquered long ago. The Dominion had absorbed thousands of species far more impressive than humanity. But something had stopped the expansion. Velara searched deeper and found a single note from a Dominion general who had surveyed human space 2 centuries ago. Recommend against military engagement. Cost would exceed benefit. These creatures are more dangerous than they appear. That was all. No explanation, no details. The recommendation had been accepted and the Dominion had left humanity alone. Velara frowned. This told her nothing about Marcus Cole. She turned to the human databases. The Dominion had passive access to Earth's information networks. It was considered primitive technology, barely worth monitoring, but the data was there if she wanted it. She searched for Marcus Cole. Nothing. The name appeared in some old shipping records. A freighter captain running cargo on the outer edges of human space. No criminal history. No military service listed. An ordinary man living an ordinary life. Velara did not believe it. She changed her search. She looked for humans who could disable a Ravax with a single touch. Humans who could learn an opponent's thinking pattern in 4 games and use it against them. Humans who walked like warriors but pretended to be old men. The search returned no results. She tried again. She looked for human combat techniques, human martial arts, human military history. What she found made her stop breathing. Humans had been fighting each other since the beginning of their existence. They had never stopped. Even as they developed technology, even as they spread to other worlds, they fought. War after war after war. And 80 years ago, they had nearly destroyed themselves. The records called it the Unification Conflicts, a series of wars that lasted 20 years and killed billions. Every nation on Earth and every colony had been involved. The weapons used were horrific. The battles were worse. Velara read through the records slowly. She began to understand something. The Dominion considered humans weak because they had no claws, no armor, no natural weapons. But humans had something else. They had spent their entire existence learning how to kill each other. They had practiced on themselves for thousands of years. They had gotten very, very good at it. During the unification conflicts, both sides had created special soldiers. The records did not say much about them. Most of the information had been sealed by the human government when the wars ended, but Velara found fragments. These soldiers were called different names by different factions: peacemakers, closers, endings. Their job was simple. When a battle could not be won, when a situation could not be solved, these soldiers were sent in. They did not fight like normal warriors. They studied. They learned. They found the one weakness that would end the conflict, and then they ended it. The casualty numbers suggested they were terrifyingly effective. Velara searched for lists of these soldiers. Most names were classified, but she found references to operations, dates and locations where these specialists had been deployed. One name appeared in connection with an operation on a colony called New Singapore. The operation had ended a siege that killed 200,000 people. The details were classified, but the soldier responsible was mentioned. M. Cole. Velara's hands trembled. She searched more. She found another reference, and another. The same initials appeared in connection with some of the worst moments of the human wars, always at the end, always when things seemed impossible. The last reference was from 62 years ago, an operation with no name on a world with no record. After that, M. Cole disappeared from all military databases. 20 years later, a man named Marcus Cole registered a small freighter and began hauling cargo on the far edges of human space. He had been doing it ever since. Velara sat back in her chair. The archive was silent around her. She had captured a man who had helped end humanity's bloodiest wars, a specialist trained to find weaknesses and destroy them, someone who had killed so effectively that even his own people had sealed the records. And she had challenged him to a game. For the first time in 3,000 years, Velara felt afraid, not of death. She had faced death before. This was something else. She was afraid of what she had become. Marcus Cole was a monster. The humans had made him that way. They had taken a man and turned him into a weapon. Then, when the wars ended, they had thrown him away. He had spent decades trying to be ordinary, trying to forget. And she had dragged him back into an arena, for entertainment, because she was bored. Velara stood slowly. She walked to the archive window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere in those stars was Earth, a small planet full of creatures who had spent their entire existence learning to hurt each other. They were weak and young and unimportant. But they had created things like Marcus Cole, and they had created so many of them that they could afford to lose them, to let them drift off into space, broken and forgotten. What kind of species did that? Velara returned to her quarters as the first light of morning touched the sky. She did not sleep. In a few hours the third trial would begin, then the fourth, then the fifth. She should stop this. She had that power. She was the princess. But stopping now would mean admitting she was wrong. It would mean facing questions from the court. It would mean explaining why a simple human frightened her. She could not do that. The games would continue. And whatever happened next, she would have to watch. The fourth trial was different from the others. There was no arena, no audience watching. The trial of spirit took place in a small chamber deep within the palace. Each competitor entered alone. What happened inside was private. Velara watched through a hidden screen in her private chambers. Only members of the royal family had access to this view. Even her guests from the court did not know it existed. The chamber was empty except for a single chair in the center. Marcus entered and looked around slowly. He seemed to understand what this place was. The door closed behind him. A soft voice spoke from the walls. "Welcome to the trial of spirit. This trial tests the strength of your soul. You will face a choice. The choice will reveal who you truly are. There is no way to prepare. There is no way to cheat. Sit in the chair and the trial will begin. Marcus walked to the chair and sat down. For a moment nothing happened. Then the room changed. Velara had seen this trial many times. The chamber used technology that was ancient even by Dominion standards. It read the mind of the person inside. It found their deepest pain. Then it made them live through it again. Most warriors screamed. Some went mad. The ones who passed did so by fighting through the visions with pure willpower. But Marcus did not scream. The room around him shifted into a city, a human city. Velara could see it through the monitoring screen. Buildings were burning. The sky was filled with smoke. Bodies lay in the streets. Marcus stood in the middle of it all. He was younger in the vision. His hair was dark. He wore military armor. A woman ran toward him. She was carrying a child. "Please," she said, "please, you have to help us. They are killing everyone. You are supposed to protect us." Vision Marcus looked at her. His face was empty. "I cannot," he said. "The mission requires the city to fall. If it does not fall, the war continues. More people die." "But we will die now. My daughter will die." "I know." The woman screamed at him. She begged. She cursed. Vision Marcus stood still and let the words hit him. He did not defend himself. He did not explain. Behind the woman, soldiers appeared. They were not his soldiers. They were the enemy. The woman turned and saw them. She looked back at Marcus one final time. Her eyes were filled with hatred. The soldiers took her. They took the child. Vision Marcus watched it happen. He did not move. The scene changed. Now Marcus was older, still younger than he was now, but older than before. He sat in a small room. A man in a uniform sat across from him. "The siege is over," the man said. "The war on New Singapore has ended. Thanks to your work, the enemy surrendered. You saved millions of lives." "How many died because of what I did?" The man paused. "The calculations suggest approximately 200,000 civilian casualties in the city you allowed to fall, but the enemy forces in the region numbered over 2 million if the siege had continued." "I did not ask about calculations. I asked how many people died because I let them die." The man was silent. "I watched them die," Marcus said. "I could have saved some of them. I chose not to. I made that choice. It was the correct choice. The mathematics are clear." "Mathematics," Marcus laughed. It was not a happy sound. "I used to believe in mathematics. I used to believe that if the numbers were right, the choice was right. But I looked into that woman's eyes. I watched her daughter crying, and I let them die for numbers." "You ended the war." "I ended myself." The scene changed again. More memories. More choices, each one worse than the last. Marcus had spent 20 years making impossible decisions. He had saved millions by sacrificing thousands. He had ended wars by breaking people. He had done things that no one else would do because he was the one who could. And each time, something inside him had died. Velara watched it all. She saw the young soldier become the broken man who had walked into her throne room. She understood now why he moved so slowly, why he smiled that strange, sad smile. He was tired, not physically, something deeper. After 2 hours, the trial ended. The visions faded. Marcus sat alone in the empty chamber. He had not screamed. He had not fought. He had simply watched his own memories play out. He had lived through them all again. A judge's voice spoke. "The trial is complete. You have passed." Marcus stood slowly. He walked toward the door. Then he stopped. "I know someone is watching," he said quietly. "Whoever you are, I hope you found what you were looking for." Velara felt her heart stop. He could not know about the screen. It was impossible. But he knew. She had to speak with him. She found Marcus in the garden outside the competitor quarters. He was sitting on a stone bench, looking at the flowers. Guards stood at a distance, watching. Velara sent them away. "You knew I was watching," she said. "I guessed." Marcus did not look at her. "Someone in power always watches. That is how power works." Velara sat on the bench beside him. She had never done this before. Princesses did not sit with prisoners. "How did you survive that?" she asked. "The trial breaks warriors. It has broken champions who trained their entire lives. You walked through it like nothing." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "The trial shows you your worst memories," he said. "It forces you to feel them again. The theory is that reliving pain breaks you, but I have been reliving those memories for 60 years. Every night, every quiet moment. They never leave." He finally looked at her. His eyes were old, so very old. "There is nothing that trial could show me that I have not already lived with. I carry those choices every day. I made peace with them long ago, not because they were right, but because carrying them is the price I pay for what I did." Velara did not know what to say. "Princess," Marcus's voice was soft, "do you know what your games create?" "Champions," she said automatically. "No, they create people like me. Broken things, creatures who have done terrible things and learned to live with it. You scatter them across the galaxy. You make them for entertainment and throw them away when they stop being amusing." Velara felt something twist in her chest. She wanted to argue. She wanted to defend her traditions. But she could not. "Why did you agree to this?" she asked. "You knew what the trials would be. You knew you might die." Marcus smiled, that sad knowing smile. "Because I have been running for 20 years, hiding at the edge of space, pretending I was just an old man with a cargo ship, but I am not. I am something else, and I was tired of pretending otherwise." He stood slowly. "Tomorrow is the final trial. Whatever happens, I want you to remember something." "What?" "Every species thinks they are special. They think their warriors are the strongest, their technology the best, their empire the greatest." He looked at her directly. "But humans have one thing no other species has. We practice on ourselves. We make monsters out of ordinary people, and then we let them loose in the universe." He walked away. Velara sat alone in the garden for a long time. The flowers swayed in the artificial breeze. Somewhere in the distance, music played. Tomorrow the games would end, and nothing would ever be the same. The final arena was the largest in the Dominion. It had been built 10,000 years ago to celebrate the Empire's greatest victories. 100,000 spectators filled the seats. Billions more watched through screens across 1,000 worlds. Princess Velara sat on the crystal throne at the center of the royal platform. Her family surrounded her. The highest nobles of the court filled the boxes nearby. This was the most important event of the gathering. Everyone who mattered was watching. The announcer's voice echoed through the arena. "The final trial, combat. The challenger will face our undefeated champion in battle. The rules are simple. Fight until one cannot continue. Any technique is permitted. Any weapon is permitted." The gates on one side of the arena opened. The Dominion's champion entered. His name was Krathver. He stood 3 meters tall. His body was a perfect combination of genetic engineering and cybernetic enhancement. He had fought in the games for 200 years. He had killed 417 opponents. No one had ever defeated him. He walked to the center of the arena and waited. His 4 arms hung at his sides. His enhanced eyes scanned for his opponent. The gates on the other side opened. Marcus Cole walked out. He looked the same as always. Old, gray, ordinary. He wore no armor. He carried no weapons. He walked with that slow, careful step that Velara now understood. The crowd murmured. This seemed wrong. This seemed unfair. Even those who had watched the earlier trials could not believe this man would fight Krathver. The announcer spoke again. "When the signal sounds, the battle begins." Marcus stopped 10 meters from Krathver. He looked up at the massive warrior. You do not have to do this, Marcus said. His voice was quiet, but the arena's systems carried it to everyone. Crathver laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound. I have waited a long time for a challenge. You are not one, but I will enjoy ending you. I meant what I said. You can yield, walk away. This does not have to end with blood. Yield, Crathver spread his forearms wide. I am undefeated. I am perfect. Why would I yield to a dying old man? Marcus nodded slowly. Something changed in his eyes. Then I am sorry for what comes next. The signal sounded. Crathver charged. He moved faster than anything his size should move. His feet cracked the arena floor. His hands reached for Marcus with killing force. Marcus was not there. He stepped to the side at the exact moment needed. His movement was small, efficient. He did not waste a single motion. Crathver spun and attacked again. A blow that would have shattered stone passed through empty air. Marcus had already moved. The crowd went silent. Velara leaned forward. She had seen warriors fight Crathver before. They tried to match his strength. They tried to endure his attacks. They always failed. Marcus was not trying to match anything. He was not fighting at all. He was moving through the combat like water flowing around rocks. Every attack missed. Every grab found nothing. Crathver grew frustrated. He attacked faster, harder. He used techniques that had killed champions from a dozen species. Nothing touched Marcus. Fight me, Crathver roared. Stop running and fight. Marcus stopped moving. He stood in the center of the arena, completely still. I am not running, he said. I am showing you something. What? How little you understand about fighting. For the first time, Marcus attacked. His movement was simple. A step forward, a hand extended. His fingers touched Crathver's chest in a pattern too quick to see. Crathver froze. His eyes went wide. Your body has 743 weak points, Marcus said calmly. Your genetic enhancements created 3 more. Your cybernetics created 12. I have touched 16 of them in the last 2 seconds. If I had wanted you dead, you would be dead. Crathver tried to speak. His mouth opened and closed, but his body would not obey. Your masters taught you to kill, Marcus continued. They made you strong and fast and durable, but they never taught you what combat really is. He walked around the frozen champion slowly. The entire arena watched. Combat is not strength. It is not speed. It is not weapons or armor or technology. Combat is understanding. Understanding your opponent. Understanding yourself. Understanding the moment between action and reaction. He stopped in front of Crathver. You have killed 400 warriors, but you never understood any of them. You used force. Force is easy. Force is what children use. Real warriors, the ones who survive, learn something else. Marcus reached up and touched another point on Crathver's neck. The champion's body relaxed. He could move again. But he did not attack. You could have killed me, Crathver said slowly. Why did you not? Because killing is easy. Living with killing is hard. I have done enough killing for 1,000 lifetimes. I did not come here to add another death to my soul. Marcus turned and looked up at the royal platform. He looked directly at Velara. I came here to show you something, princess, all of you. His voice carried through the arena like thunder. Humans are not strong. We are not fast. We have no claws, no armor, no special abilities. By every measure, we should be nothing. He walked toward the center of the arena. But we are not nothing. We have spent our entire existence learning to survive, learning to adapt, learning to fight things bigger and stronger and more dangerous than ourselves. He stopped and spread his arms. Your champions trained their whole lives. Your warriors are enhanced with technology we cannot match. Your empires span galaxies while we have barely left our home. He smiled, that sad knowing smile. And yet here I am, an old man with no weapons and no armor, and your greatest champion cannot touch me." The arena was completely silent. This is what humanity is. Not our ships, not our technology, not our strength. We are the species that never stops learning, never stops adapting, never stops fighting. You can beat us 1,000 times and we will get back up, because that is all we know how to do. He looked at Valera one more time. "End the games, princess, not because you fear us, but because you understand now what you are creating. Every species you torment, every champion you break, you are teaching them to be like us, and the galaxy does not need more creatures like me." Valera stood. The entire court turned to look at her. She thought about everything she had seen. The trials, the archive, the garden. She thought about 3,000 years of watching warriors die for her entertainment. She thought about who she wanted to be. "The games are ended," she said. Her voice was clear and strong. "Now and forever by royal decree." The court exploded in whispers. This was unprecedented. This was impossible. But no one argued. No one dared. Marcus bowed his head slightly. Then he walked toward the arena gate. Valera spoke again. "Marcus Cole, you have won the trials. You are owed your freedom and safe passage. What else would you ask of me?" He stopped at the gate. He did not turn around. "I ask nothing, princess. I have what I need." "And what is that?" "Hope." He stepped through the gate. "Hope that someone finally understood." 3 days later, Valera watched his battered freighter leave the station. It jumped to hyperspace and disappeared into the void. She never saw him again. But she never forgot. And in the centuries that followed, when other species asked why the Dominion had ended its famous games, she always told them the same thing. Because a human showed us what we had become, and we chose to become something else. Far away, on the edges of known space, an old man flew his cargo ship toward the stars. He did not know that his name would be remembered for millennia. He did not know that his words would change an empire. He only knew that for the first time in 60 years, he felt at peace. The game was over, and he had finally won.